One god decided a man should never reach home, and for 10 years the sea obeyed that command. After the fall of Troy, the greatest Greek hero, Odysseus, set sail for home. He had survived war, kings, and monsters, but he had angered the wrong god, and the sea itself would turn against him, because this is the story of the man the ocean tried to kill for 10 years. Subscribe and enter the world of dark myths and ancient legends. Odysseus and his men sailed across the open sea, believing the worst was already behind them. The war was over. Troy had fallen. And now, all they wanted was home. But the sea was full of islands, and not all of them were friendly. One day, they reached a strange rocky shore. The land looked empty, but smoke rose from a distant cave. Odysseus, curious as always, decided to explore. He took a few of his men and entered the cave. Inside, they found something strange. Huge tools, massive bowls, and sheep bigger than any they had ever seen. This was no ordinary home. It belonged to a Cyclops. Soon, the giant returned. Polyphemus, son of Poseidon, entered the cave and blocked the entrance with a stone so large no man could move it. Then, he saw them. Tiny humans standing in his home. He did not ask questions. He did not show mercy. He grabbed 2 men and smashed them against the cave floor. And then he ate them. The others watched in horror, realizing they were trapped inside a monster's home. But Odysseus was not only a warrior, he was clever. That night, he offered the Cyclops strong wine. The giant drank it, laughing at the small man who dared to challenge him. Soon, the wine made him weak. His eye grew heavy. And finally, the giant fell asleep. Odysseus and his men heated a long wooden spear in the fire. When it glowed red, they lifted it together and drove it into the Cyclops' eye. The cave filled with a terrible scream. Polyphemus roared in pain, blinded, stumbling through the darkness. But the Greeks escaped, hiding under the bellies of the giant sheep as they left the cave. They ran to their ship and sailed away. They were safe. But Odysseus could not stay silent. As the ship moved away, he shouted back to the island. He told the Cyclops his name. He wanted the monster to know who had defeated him. It was a mistake that would cost him 10 years. On the shore, the blinded Cyclops lifted his hands toward the sky. "Father," he cried, "hear me. If I am truly your son, if the sea obeys your will, then punish this man. Let him wander, let him suffer, and if he ever reaches home, let him arrive alone." Poseidon heard. The sea god, lord of storms, rose from the depths. He saw the ship cutting across his waters, and he saw the man who had blinded his son. From that moment, Odysseus was no longer just another sailor. He became a target. Poseidon struck the sea with his trident. Waves rose like mountains. The sky turned black. Lightning tore the clouds apart. Odysseus's fleet was scattered. Ships crashed into rocks. Masts snapped. Men were swallowed by the waves. Some ships never returned. Others drifted into unknown waters. The long journey home had become a curse. The storms pushed Odysseus to strange lands. On one island, a sorceress named Circe welcomed his men. She smiled, she offered them food, but the moment they ate, their bodies began to change. Their hands became hooves. Their voices turned to squeals. They had become pigs. Circe laughed, walking among them like a queen among animals. But Odysseus, with the help of the god Hermes, forced her to change them back. Still, the journey was not over. Circe told him the truth. If you want to return home, you must first travel to the land of the dead." So Odysseus sailed to the edge of the world, where the sea turned black and the air grew cold. There he spoke with the spirits. They warned him. The sea was not his enemy. One God was, and that God would not forgive. Odysseus returned to the living world, but the sea grew more dangerous. First, they heard the voices, soft, beautiful, irresistible. The sirens. Their song promised knowledge, glory, and peace. Men who heard it forgot everything else. They sailed toward the rocks, smiling until their ships shattered. Odysseus ordered his men to fill their ears with wax, but he wanted to hear the song, so they tied him to the mast. As the ship passed the rocks, he struggled, begging them to release him. But they did not listen, and the ship survived. But worse was coming. Ahead, the sea narrowed between two horrors. On one side, Scylla, a monster with many heads, waiting to snatch sailors from the deck. On the other, Charybdis, a giant whirlpool that swallowed entire ships. There was no safe path. As they sailed between them, Scylla struck. 6 men were taken. Their screams echoed across the water. But the ship survived. Only barely. The journey continued, but the crew grew desperate. On one island, they found sacred cattle belonging to the sun god. Odysseus warned them, "Do not touch them." But hunger is stronger than fear. While he slept, the men killed the cattle and feasted. The gods were furious. When they returned to the sea, a storm rose instantly. A single lightning bolt struck the ship. It shattered. Men were thrown into the ocean. One by one, they disappeared beneath the waves. Only Odysseus survived. He clung to a piece of the broken ship and drifted for days. Finally, he reached an island. There, a goddess named Calypso found him. She cared for him, fed him, loved him, but she would not let him leave. For years, he remained on that island, watching the horizon, dreaming of home, until the gods themselves ordered his release. Even then, Poseidon was waiting. One final storm struck his raft, but this time Odysseus survived. Broken, alone, but alive, he finally reached the shores of his homeland. 10 years after the war, 10 years after angering a god, Odysseus reached home, but the sea never forgot. Because Poseidon was not just a god of storms, he was a god of kingdoms. Long before Odysseus, he had built a great empire beneath the waves, a kingdom of gold, power, and pride. A kingdom the ocean itself would one day swallow. Next time, we descend into the deep, to the lost empire of Atlantis.